Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Foster Files. My name is Kelly, and I'm a foster with Cross Your Paws Rescue in the Pittsburgh area of Pennsylvania. And I've got my favorite training partner in crime with me again today. I have Lauren here today from Choose Wisely Dog Training. Hi, Lauren, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. I asked Lauren to come on today to talk about something really specific. She and I were connected yesterday about some messages that we've been seeing on the volunteer chat, on the app chat, and even messages that she's been receiving privately from people who are fostering dogs as well as recently adopt dogs. And some of the messages have had some really consistent questions, so we thought this might be a really great opportunity to sort of dive into some of the concerns that are coming up with newly adopted and newly fostered dogs and some tips that Lauren can guide us through in order to kind of help through some of these things. So, Lauren, why don't you tell me about some of the messages that you've been seeing and what are some of the concerns that adopters and fosters are having at the moment?
Sure. So earlier this week, one of my fosters responded to me, and her dog is barking at her husband after the dog park. He's coming in, they're letting him off the leash, and he just starts barking at her husband. So she's saying they can't have guests over until they resolve that. There was another message this week that her dog is, I think, humping either her or husband. That's another, you can't really have guests over until you resolve that. And then I have somebody else that I've been working with that their dog's actually nipping a little bit at her and her husband. So I think it's very similar cases, and I think there's some very easy fixes, but I wanted to kind of meet with you and talk through that because it is a general thing that seems like it's a trend going on right now.
Yeah, I think the way that when we were talking about getting together and talking about this yesterday, we both were trying to figure out how do we want to categorize this behavior? Like, how do we want to sort of generalize it? And I really saw and looked at it as like unwanted behavior with an excited dog. Because
Exactly.
unwanted behavior, if we drill that down, that could be anything like you talked about: excessive barking, humping, nipping, or herding. Herd, not hurt, herding. Um, Jumping, attention seeking behavior through whining, through chewing, right? Through maybe
Right.
digging, whatever that looks like. And then when we talk about what it means to have an excited dog, that also can mean a lot of different things, right? They're excited because they just got worked up at the dog park, like the one case that you were referencing. They are worked up because they haven't had an outlet for their energy. They're worked up because they're in a new environment. They don't necessarily know what to do with their emotions, or they're actually physically excited because maybe they aren't spayed or neutered yet, or whatever that might look like. So I think unwanted behavior with an excited dog is a really great way for us to generalize this and sort of wrap everything up to say, okay, so what are some tools we can use to recognize that behavior, attempt to avoid that behavior, maybe stop it before it even starts, and then how to redirect or stop that behavior. And that's where your expertise really comes in. So, how can we kind of recognize that a dog is sort of maybe ramping up and going to move towards some of that unwanted behavior?
In some of the instances I just went over, it seems like it's a habit that you get back from the dog park, you let the dog off the leash, and then you get the barking. The other couple I talked to, they sit down for the night. They're both most likely tired after work. They want to kind of sit, watch TV, and that's when the dog comes and starts to mount them. So breaking up that routine, whether you give your dog a bully stick and put him in the crate for a little bit after the dog park to let him settle down, whether you give your dog enrichment before you sit down for TV, break that pattern so it's not that habit that's forming consistently. That would be first and foremost. The next thing would be, I always say this, a tired dog is a good dog. So add another 15 minutes to the walk, add another enrichment activity, whatever you can conveniently do in your own life, try that. And if that doesn't work, try something else. keep working at it until you figure out a way that you can live with your dog.
So we have talked a lot, both on and off the podcast, about Max.
Mhm.
I am starting to notice that as Max becomes more comfortable, he is struggling to settle at night. And so it'll be the end of the day. We will have done at a minimum one walk that day, one long walk, sometimes two, oftentimes two. And so it's the end of the day. Michael and I are sitting down. We want to maybe watch an hour of TV. And he's just kind of still pacing. He's still pacing. He's walking around. He's going to the bay window. He's really worked up. So what I started to do is I started to your point, find things for him to actually chew. I first started by going out into the yard and grabbing some of the toys from in the yard, and I would bring them inside, and he would immediately just start like chewing on them, and that immediately calmed him. It was really nice to see. I also stopped by the CYP building 2 weeks ago, and I picked up two big bones, one for Cheese and one for Max, and so I am now giving him that when he's super restless. So those two things, chewing seems to be a really great outlet for him specifically, but I also really love the idea of enrichment. So why don't you tell me, because if it is the end of the day, you just did walks and you just did dog parking, you just did all of your chores and or you put your kids to bed, like I just want to sit down and I want to watch television. So what are some enrichment techniques I can use that the dog is occupied, but I am able to just relax and not necessarily have to be engaged with the dog? What would you suggest?
The first thing that my dog loves is a Snoop. It's a little plastic thing you put treats in, and she just bats it around until she gets all the treats out. That entertains her for probably about 20 minutes because if you put enough treats in and shove them all the way down there, it takes a while. I have a puppy right now that is going through bully sticks like a champion. He goes through like one a day. So you have to, what I think Emily talked about, training the dog in front of you, enrich the dog in front of you. If your dog likes to chew, if your dog likes to seek, if your dog likes the snoop, figure out what your dog likes because a relationship is give and take, that it can't be what you want your dog to do. It needs to be what your dog actually enjoys doing. And if that's not chewing bully sticks or if that's not the snoop, there's so many options out on Amazon for relatively cheap. The pet store is relatively cheap. I mean, I've even heard of rolling up a towel and putting treats in there. That there's so many easy, cheap options to do. The other day, I actually was watching Instagram. If you sit on the floor and just throw treats over your legs and make your dog jump back and forth a couple times, that burns energy and you can be sitting and watching TV easy and your dog's still getting some exercise.
I also love the idea of taking a Kong and freezing peanut butter or yogurt in the Kong. You can even take some of the dog's favorite, like healthy snacks. Like my dogs love carrots, they love berries. You can freeze that within the yogurt or within the peanut butter. So as they sort of lick, they can kind of continue to get those surprise and rewards. I recently heard of an enrichment technique that involves Max loves cardboard. Like he loves chewing up a cardboard box. It's wild. So I'm actually saving one right now, and I'm saving egg cartons, and I'm gonna put the egg carton in the cardboard box, and inside the egg carton I'm going to put treats. So then as he kind of tears it up, he's getting sort of that reward of not only chewing the box up but getting the treats. But I'm only going to be doing that and giving that to him when I need him to be kind of away from me, doing his own thing and sort of self-soothing a little bit to get him to calm down. But those are some really inexpensive ways to get your dog distracted and focusing on something else other than bugging the hell out of you.
One more great one that I kind of just remembered is a old muffin pan with tennis balls and then treats underneath the tennis balls. Very cheap, easy to do. I think we all have an old muffin pan laying around.
Right.
Really great enrichment, and it gets that seeking behavior out in the dog.
Yeah, absolutely. I also love what you said about a tired dog is a good dog. I have lived by that mantra forever, but like I said, and so we do a lot of walks. I did a whole episode on it called Walk It Out. But again, like I said, some of the behavior that I'm seeing from Max, it almost doesn't matter how tired he is if he's still like kind of worked up. It's almost like his brain can't relax. It's not his body, it's his brain. So I think it's good to understand that you also could have a situation where the dog, no matter how much you run the dog, how much you play with the dog, how much you walk the dog, you might have a situation where they're having a hard time just figuring out how to relax.
Exactly. And that's like the bubble bath at the end of the day, or some people read in their bed for an hour before they actually go to bed. It's kind of like a human decompressing by the end of the day, staying off your phone, which I'm trying to do more of. For dogs, it's kind of the same thing, giving them an activity, letting them focus on that, and then slowly get the cortisol levels lower while they do that.
Yeah, I think that some of those things are really really important to just have some tools. And what's great about, and we've talked about this before, we don't want anybody to feel like they're listening to this podcast and have to go down the Google black hole.
Mhm.
But there are tips on the internet that can be extremely helpful, like cheap, inexpensive enrichment ideas for my dog, right? Like, how can I entertain my dog when I just want to relax? I don't think it's any different, or asking other pet owners. I don't think it's any different than like if you have a kid and you're like, I really need to take a shower. How do I distract this kid while they take a shower? So
Right.
it's not, driving me nuts. It's just with dogs, we have to maybe do something a little bit different because we can't sit our dog in front of the television.
Exactly. And Cross Your Paws has really great support in the alumni group and the volunteer group. If you need ideas, put a question out there and you'll probably get a bunch of responses that will all be really useful.
Yeah, I think that that's a really it's a really great thing to talk about. It's like, hey, my dog is driving me nuts. I'm doing everything I can. Something's not working. How do I make an adjustment? One of the things that I wanted to ask you about when it goes back to that person who sent over the question about humping, both you and that dog's foster replied and said that neutering the dog probably wasn't going to affect the behavior and change the behavior as much as they thought it would. I would have thought that neutering would have been very helpful with that. So tell me why you said that it wouldn't necessarily.
There's a little bit more knowledge. I think there's a couple of studies. I'll have to pull them up and send them to you. That it doesn't really change the behavior. You have to get to the root of the problem. It could be boredom. It could be anxiety. It could be the dog doesn't have an outlet to express certain behavior. That I know some trainers will give the dog like a pillow to hump, and they're like, "That's fine, whatever, as long as it's not the person." It also depends on the person's threshold. That, I mean, if you don't want your dog to hump at all, you need to give them an alternative desired behavior to do. And if it is boredom or anxiety, figure out how to address that either through enrichment or through another avenue. And you have to teach your dog how to behave in this modern world because they're not equipped for it.
Yeah, I appreciate that thought process because I'm definitely one of those people that would have just assumed that neutering the dog made a difference. And certainly we know that it does make a difference and you absolutely should get your pet spayed and neutered.
Right.
But it's also good to have other tools in your belt to discourage that behavior when that behavior is unwanted behavior, especially.
Exactly.
So tell me a little bit about how you work, because you said you have a puppy foster right now. I know you tend to gravitate towards having puppies. To
He's my
foster
oldest
with you.
puppy at 5.5 months. And
Oh
I've,
my
I've
gosh.
gone quite down I normally I do 8 weeks.
I mean, I've had the youngest dog that I've had was like 6 or 7 months, and she was a lot. So I prefer to foster the little bit older dogs. But tell me a little bit about how someone can get a puppy or maybe a really excitable older dog out of sort of the jumping and nipping habit. Because I think first of all, it's important for people to understand nipping is not biting.
Right.
Those are two very different things and they mean very different things to the dog. But how do we get the dog out of those habits?
So day one, I brought the puppy home. His name's Jacko, Jack-o'-lantern. And I think I got treats out because I was like, we're gonna start training right now. Like he's fine. He doesn't need a ton of time to decompress. Immediately started jumping at me. So I I say, and I know you hate that noise, and was told not to use it
No,
immediately.
I used that noise and someone else corrected me. So, no, 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 no. Let me be clear. Someone shamed me for using that noise, but you go ahead.
Every time I use it, I think of you and your story. Um,
Oh, that was so rude. Anyway, go ahead.
so I said and immediately taught him when you have your forepaws on the floor, you get a treat. Like, we are not coming over, we're not jumping. He still does jump occasionally, very, very randomly when he gets too excited. And that's fine. He is a puppy. He will make some mistakes, but
And you've had him a week and a half, Lauren.
right,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
And he's made a ton of progress, but we do training sessions in the morning while my coffee brews. I've taught him sit, I've taught him touch with his nose, like boop with his nose. We're working on lay down. I think because of his background, lay down's a little bit more difficult because he can't trust quite yet. He was found as a stray in a rougher area of town, so I think he is still building up that trust with humans. He knows find it, so we're slowly working on integrating him into being adoptable, but it's been a journey. He did not come to me house trained, so that was another thing we were working through.
One of the things that both Cheese and Max will do, and I think Cheese has actually taught Max this. I call it corn cobbing, where they take the front of their teeth and they like kind of nibble on you. And it's not meant to hurt, but certainly if they catch your skin, it hurts like hell. But I call it corn cobbing. It's almost like this, maybe you can explain it to me really what it is, but it feels like an affectionate behavior where they're like trying to tell you that they're excited and they are want to touch you in some way. I don't know. How do you decipher that behavior?
It is called corn clubbing, and Emma does it too. I think she does it more to Chris than she does it to me. That it is a love. It is a love symbol. It is excitement that it can hurt.
Yeah, like it's like those little pinches. Like he got my arm fat one time, like right below my armpit, and I almost jumped out of my skin. Yes. Oh, I
That's
know.
a rough area.
Yeah, it's brutal.
So she does that kind of when he's bothering her, like she'll be sleeping or doing something, and he'll come put his face in her face, and she'll be like, I don't really want to be bothered, but I'll give you a little bit of corn cob and send you on your way. She doesn't really do that when she's up and excited to go. But like I said, every dog is different, so you kind of have to learn the signs of your dog. I think the dog that is going to mount you, if you're sitting on the couch, and like I said, if you have that pattern that you know when he's going to come over, possibly he gets that look in his eye, redirect him immediately, give him a
Mm.
bone, throw a find it on the floor, just give him something else to do to get his mind off of that and break that pattern, because the pattern then becomes a habit and you don't want that for your dog.
No, absolutely not. I mean, because like everybody to everybody's messages to their point, like you don't necessarily want them doing that with guests. You don't certainly don't want them
Right.
doing that with maybe older people or children, where humping could turn into somebody getting knocked over or getting scratched in the face. And, you don't, it's unwanted behavior. So it's important to be able to find a way to get them outside of that. How do you feel about, I know that training and you are a positive reinforcement trainer, and I respect that. How do you feel about like a spray water bottle? Because one of the ways that we got Max out of the habit of crowding Snowball when Snowball eats, our 15-year-old dog, is when he would come near Snowy when he's eating, we would just spray him with a water bottle. Just, hey, you don't belong here. Back off. Get away from Snowball. How do you feel about maybe that? Like if they're maybe humping another dog or humping a kid, or you know what I mean? Like something to just
Yeah.
be like, this is not okay.
Through the shelters, I actually took a fear-free oath, so I can't personally say use a water bottle. My mom,
Okay,
on the other
fair
hand,
enough.
when I take puppies over there, we had a puppy that we probably had a little too young away from the litter, and he, I think, bit my mom. She sprayed him with a water bottle, and he
Yeah.
didn't do that again. So she
Yeah,
she has done that before, and it does work. And like I said, I can't condone that, but
fair.
it's not like a harmful way to. to get the dog to stop doing a behavior.
Fair. I think I am having to like the way that I brought up was definitely like the carrot and the stick for sure. So I have to like fight some of those instincts myself to make sure that I'm doing things the right way. But I think ultimately too, like we would be really naive to say that there are not things that are going to be wildly frustrating or you're going to be wildly tired or potentially at the end of
Right.
your rope. And like if redirecting with positive stuff isn't working, we're not at all saying you should resort to a situation where the dog is harmed in any way, shape, or form. If you're going to go that route, then, you know, stop it and maybe reassess whether or not you should be owning a dog. But maybe having a water bottle on hand to keep everybody safe when you are feeling that frustration, maybe for me, I will say is maybe not the worst thing in the world. And Lauren's not
Right.
condoning that.
And having a dog is a relationship too, that there's give and take, that if the dog's doing something wrong, you also need to look at what you're maybe not providing because dogs really didn't get a choice to come to the specific owner they have. They don't have a lot of choice throughout the day of when they go outside, when they eat, that we
Mhm.
need to give them a little bit of agency and freedom wherever possible, that if they have a behavior they're doing, what can we teach them to do instead that maybe is also a desired behavior for them and for us?
So to kind of sum up a little bit, if I can, recognize the patterns of when the unwanted behavior tends to arise
Mhm.
and change those habits and change those patterns. Redirect the dog's attention to something more positive for the dog, positive for the environment, enriching for the dog. And there are toys and things that you can buy, but there are also inexpensive and free ways that you can build up enrichment activities for your dog. And make sure that you are giving your dog enough in the way of exercise for both their body and mind so that we can try to avoid having pent up energy to begin with. Would you say that sort of wraps up what we're discussing?
I'm gonna add probably three more
Please
things is
go
be
for it.
consistent. If you have a puppy and like the bitey thing, the bitey jumpy is cute because I mean puppies are cute no matter what they're doing. They're going to eventually be an adult dog doing that behavior. So play the tape forward. If the dog is jumping and biting as a puppy, they're going to be doing that later because they can't differentiate when they're 12 pounds versus 50 pounds. The second thing would be no play biting. Once again, if you have somebody that's playing rough with your dog, like my fiance did with with Emma for a little bit, she can't differentiate whenever he's not wanting to play versus when he does want to play. So what I told him to do was either get like an oven mitt or have that cue, hey, this is on, you can play bite now. And I mean, she does bite him a little bit harder than she bites me. So I think she does differentiate that. But also, when the oven mitt's on, it's playtime. When it's not on, we're not playing. The third thing I wanted to talk about is sometimes we talked about your dog being overly tired. If your dog is not sleeping, if he's sleeping lightly, he may need that solid sleep. So make sure his crate's in a quiet place. Make sure he's away from the foot traffic, especially if you have a family or kids. Don't put his crate like in the main living room because he might not be getting the sleep he needs. So those are three more things to kind of just watch out for as well.
Those are really, really good tips. I will say we recently moved Max's crate into the area of the house that we call the dog room. And when he is ready for bed, he just takes himself to bed and he just goes and he goes to sleep. And we've definitely had moments at night where I'm like, okay, he is like worked up. He can't relax. I need to get him in the crate and let him go to bed. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know? It's just
Yeah.
a matter of giving him an opportunity to sort of decompress in his own space where nobody's bothering him and he can go to sleep.
And that's knowing your dog too, that once you start to pay attention, you can kind of figure out when your dog's tired. Like Emma puts herself to bed. If we don't go to bed by midnight, she's in the bedroom. Like, what are you guys waiting for? It is time for bed. She likes a schedule. There's some dogs that need a little bit more of unpredictability. That's one part of the resilience rainbow, that if you have the same snack every day at 3 o'clock for a little bit, if it's your favorite food, you'll be like, yeah, this is wonderful. I love it. A week down the line, you might be like, okay, kind of getting sick of my favorite thing. 2 weeks later, you're like, oh my gosh, like I can't look at this anymore. I'm so sick of what used to be my favorite food. Some dogs need that predictability. Other dogs need a little bit more of unpredictability and excitement throughout their day. So figure out what your dog needs, and if they need to go left instead of right down the street, or if they need to do enrichment one day, a walk one day, figure out what's going to make your dog be the best dog they can be.
Anything else that you would like to leave people with who might be struggling with some unwanted behavior from an excited dog, whether it be a new foster that they brought into their home or a newly adopted dog that they've brought to their home?
Don't be afraid to ask for help. I have struggled with my own dog because I didn't know there were different avenues. I didn't know there were different trainers. I hired a trainer that didn't work for me. Look for another one then. There's so much information out there that if something's not working, keep looking. There's somebody out there that will be the best trainer for you and your dog.
I love that. That's really, really great advice. Lauren, as always, please remind people how they can find you and access your incredible advice.
I have a website, choosewiselydogtraining.com. You can Google it if you can't find it. And then I also am on Instagram, choose_wisely_dog training. And then you could always email me, choosewiselytraining@gmail.com, or ask Kelly for my contact information.
And the way that you can support and follow the podcast is you can like us and follow us on any platform that you listen to podcasts. Please leave us a review. You can follow the podcast at the Foster Files Podcast on Instagram. If you have any suggestions for anyone I should talk to or any subjects I should talk about, you can email me at the fosterfilespodcast@gmail. Thank you, Lauren, again, as always, for being willing to come on and talk to us and give us some really great tips and actionable things that we can do to make our lives better with our animals. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me again. It's always a pleasure.
So when Lauren and I spoke, she had a foster puppy named Jack-o'-lantern, but since our recording, Jack-o'-lantern has actually been adopted. So for today's foster spotlight, I'm going to be highlighting a different dog with Cross Your Paws Rescue that I think needs a little bit of special attention. Today, I'm going to talk about Ruby. Ruby is a shepherd mix. She is a senior girl, and I'm going to list her profile, go over her bio a little bit. And then if you're interested in looking at Ruby, you can check the link in the show notes or go to crossyourpaws.com and look up Ruby. That's Ruby. Ruby is a very sweet senior girl. She was dumped off and left to starve. She came to us at 32 pounds and was too weak to stand on her own. She is slowly putting on weight and is able to walk now onto her own weight. Her skin is healing nicely and she will have a beautiful coat soon. Can you be the one to give this girl a comfy bed and safe home? So by all estimates, Ruby is 12 years old. She is a female. She is spayed. Looks as if she is okay with kids, okay with dogs, and okay with cats. And honestly, her pictures are pretty heartbreaking. It's pretty clear that she has had at least one litter, if not more than one. She was in rough shape when she came to the rescue, but oh my God, she's a baby doll. Her face is so sweet. So if you are looking to give a senior dog their final forever home and show them the love that they so desperately deserve, check out Ruby at crossyourpaws.com. I hope everyone enjoyed today's episode. Thank you again to Lauren. She always is such a wealth of knowledge. Enjoy the day, enjoy the week, and enjoy your dogs. Have a good one.